Welcome back. If you're tuning into this session or from, I guess, a few previous sessions, this month we're focusing all on love. So, of course, when we're filming this, it's February. Depends on when you're watching, but we're filming in February, Valentine's Day. So we're focusing on all things love. So we talked about our first week, we looked at loving yourself. The last week we talked about looking at the love languages and basically how to communicate love with others and with yourself. And today we're going to talk about how you can actually spread that love. So I feel like the last 2 weeks have really been focused on kind of, like your immediate circle, yourself, taking care of yourself, lots of this kind of stuff. But as we're going to learn today, basically your energy and your love and your emotions, these things actually are contagious. And it's not just like, hokey pokey, like, oh yeah, you're like happy. If you're happy, it's contagious. Your smile is contagious. Like, this stuff is actually real science, which is so cool. So that's what we're going to dive into today, is talking about how you can actually communicate love with other people, but not through talking, not through love languages. It's going to be completely different. So get ready to dive in. We're going to talk about some pretty neat science today. So when we look at like the symbol of love, right, or the symbol of emotions, all these types of things, we always come back to the heart, right? So even when we think about like, when we feel loved, our heart grows. I always think of the Grinch, like his heart grew 10 sizes that day, or whatever the quote is. But also when we think about something like when things bad happen, we feel heartbroken, right? So our heart breaks. There's all of this stuff with emotion around the heart. And that's not just because, like, I don't know, somebody came up with it, or at some point in time that hearts meant love, or hearts meant something to do with emotion, right? This is actually real stuff. So your heart, basically, well, we all know this, right? Your heart beats, okay? So when you see it on like an ECG or whatever, like you can see like the lines and how they move and your heart beats. But there's actually something called heart rate variability. So basically that means that, like, we often think that our heart beats on like the same rhythm all the time, right? Like, it's exactly the same all the time, except for maybe you're exercising, your heart rate increases, and if you're sleeping or you relax, your heart rate decreases. Of course that happens, but it's not quite that simple. So we actually have like the space in between beats, and that space changes based on what's going on, okay? And one of the things that can change this space is your emotions. Oh, I forgot to mention, you're gonna want to download your slides for this one. Sometimes the slides are more like supplementary and just help to kind of support information, but there's actually a lot of pictures in this slide that are really, really important. So do make sure that you download those. So when you actually look at like an ECG or those types of things of your heart, and you'll see in the slides here, I've got a couple of them posted, is basically like I've got appreciation and anger. So these are two very different emotions, right? And these graphs look completely different. So these are measuring your heart rate variability, or the space in between each heartbeat. And as you can see, in appreciation, like that space is like pretty chill, right? When you look at anger, it's all over the place, right? Your variability is short, it's long, it's hot, like it's just all over the place. So these are showing that your emotions actually present themselves through your heartbeat. So that's really cool. So your heartbeat is changing all the time, or at least that space in between your heartbeats is changing all the time based on what you're feeling. Okay, so that's cool. What does that mean? Or why is that important? So what makes this important is that your heart, like the reason that you can use like an EKG machine, for example, is that your heart actually puts off, like these beats are electrical signals, okay? So when you attach like the electrodes or whatever for these tests, it's detecting like these small amounts of electricity essentially that are communicating. And this electricity makes a biomagnetic field. So essentially it makes like, kind of like how the world has a magnetic field, right? You also have your own magnetic field. So this extends 3 feet beyond your body. So that's like more than an arm's length away. The first thing I laughed that came to my mind, of course, when I'm filming this, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, that's half of the social distance bubble. Anyways, 3 feet beyond your body, this biomagnetic field extends, okay? So like, even as I'm sitting here, I don't know if you can see my hands all the way off camera, but it's even beyond this, okay? So anybody standing within that distance, they can actually feel your energy. This is not the hokey pokey stuff. This isn't like, I sense people's energy. You can actually feel this. So when we talk about like you know, you walk into a room and like you can feel the tension. That's not just made up. Like that's actually the field in the room from people's hearts that are interacting, and you can feel that, okay? So totally crazy stuff. And actually the biomagnetic field of the heart is 60 times stronger than that of the brain. So people often think about, because the brain is full of neurons and all these like connections and then electrical connections too, right? That the brain is like this like hot spot, I guess, but the heart is actually 60 times stronger. So you feel from another person or yourself, you actually feel the biomagnetic field of somebody else's heart more than you would feel anything about the brain, okay? So when you are standing within a distance of somebody within 3 feet of a person, you're going to be able to actually feel their energy and their emotions, and that's actually going to affect you or affect the other people that are standing in your circle, okay? So really, really cool stuff. And when you look on your slide, I actually have a picture of this, so it just kind of shows like the field essentially around the person. This stuff can be seen. It's really cool. There's like actually some technology now that can measure these fields, and so you can actually see these. They're not made up anymore. Some people thought they were made up for a long time. But basically what this comes down to, long story short, is that we are all connected, okay? So when you are standing within a distance of people, you're connected, your emotions are connected, and you actually have an impact on other people's emotions. So this is where I'm talking about like spreading the love thing. And it's not just love, right? I mean, it's February, okay, we're gonna talk about love too, but it's spreading any emotion. So you are gonna have a direct impact on all of the people that surround you and you're in that immediate circle, just as much as other people are gonna have an impact on you. So when we think about actually like spreading the love, or if we're trying to have a positive change on earth or on the people we love or whatever that looks like, we need to be really, really conscious about what emotions we're actually feeling. And I'm not talking about like, okay, so we have to be happy all the time because we want to change the world. No, because your heart, if you're not actually happy, your heart is not going to reflect happy, okay? Your heart's going to reflect whatever you're actually feeling. Your heart and your brain talk all the time and like deliver messages. So if your brain is telling you that you're mad or that you're really upset, it's going to communicate that to your heart. Your heart is going to be in such a way, and that's going to project, okay? Even if you're like, okay, life is good, you've got the mask on, your heart's not representing that, okay? So this is like actual authentic positive emotion or negative emotion that's going to be expressed through the heartbeat and then extend into your bubble, okay? So when we actually talk about sharing positive emotion or transforming people around us, we have to be authentic, and we have to be like basically committed to doing these things for ourselves. So even when you go back to all of this stuff we've been talking about all month about like taking care of yourself, or like whether that's through love languages, whether that's through you know, self-care behaviors, whatever, or whether that's working to like fill others' emotional tanks or love tanks or whatever, those things are going to affect how your body is working, essentially, right? And we talked about that in the self-love session of how much that affects your body. So when your body is in that stress state, that's going to change your heart rate variability. So even when you look at like HRV, I'll short heart rate variability, HRV, because it is a bit of a tongue twister. It's something that's coming up a lot more, and it's also something that's becoming more accessible for you to measure. So for example, like I've got a smartwatch on right now that measures my stress levels through heart rate variability. So when you're stressed, this of course is because stress is some sort of emotion, right? So it's going to change, and so it's going to detect that through my heart rate variability on my wrist, a heart rate monitor. So like these things they're starting to become more accessible for people to measure. So you can actually start to like, I guess where I'm coming to with this is you can actually start to measure your own authentic emotion, I guess is what I'm trying to tell you. So if you are really stressed but you're trying to put on like the happy face, you can't fool your body. It knows you're stressed, and so you can actually start to see these things, which is really cool. Like for example, a few weeks ago I had some stress and stuff going on in my life, and I thought I had a really good sleep, but I actually looked at my stress score and my sleep score was horrible. Like this watch tells me all kinds of stuff, it's crazy, but my stress score, it was like I was actually having stress in the night, and I was like, what? I was sleeping. But the stress from my day was carrying probably into my dreams or into my processing into the night, and it was causing me to have a heart rate variability that reflected stress. So these things are happening even when we're not knowing it, and it's crazy to think about because sometimes we're not even aware of it at all. So if we can measure our heart rate variability anyway, really, whether that's through something like a watch or whether that's through a more specific device, they actually do make like heart rate variability monitors. So you want to be able to like measure these things so that you can start to control what you're putting out, okay? So that's kind of the key there. So you can't lie to yourself when you're actually using science to measure things. So see if you can get some sort of access, if it's within your budget or whatever, to be able to measure your own heart rate variability to see if you're putting on a face, or maybe if you're actually feeling really stressed or really having negative emotions that are going to spread, okay? The other thing that's really cool, and it's also a little bit terrifying, is that we actually have the ability to affect other people's heart rate variability and their biomagnetic fields based on ours. So for example, yeah, I mean, you probably heard this. Like, for example, if a couple is, one person in a relationship is really negative, oftentimes the other person starts to also be very negative. And I mean, yes, of course, it probably has something to do with like how another person speaks and we connect with people and these types of things. But it also, being surrounded by that person all the time starts to impact your own biomagnetic field, which impacts your heart, which then makes you experience more negative emotion. So we actually have the ability to transform the people around us based on how we're feeling. And it's just crazy to think about. So, I mean, as myself, I work with people all the time, especially when I work with people in person. I can't show up and be in a crappy mood because other people can feel that, okay? So I have to be very conscious of my actual emotions and not my fake emotions or my mask. Right? So I have to be able to transform that and shift that for myself so that I can be actually available for my clients, right? So like, how can we do this? How can we even change this, right? So when we look at our heart rate variability, there's something called coherence, okay? And so basically that is coming into a heart rate variability that's like relaxed, for just to make it more simple. So we're coming to a place where we have this really relaxed, stress-free heart rate, or HRV. So we want to be able to bring ourselves to that. We can use lots of different strategies to do this. Breathing exercises is a really good one. There's like a training course, I guess, if you want to call it that, but also their website has a ton of resources on it. And actually a lot of the research I did today came from their site. It's called Heart Math. So you can just Google that online, heart like the organ and math like the class at school. And this is basically what all of their research focuses on. They're more specifically tailored to stress. But if you're looking to basically pull your body out of a stress state and into coherence, which is then going to communicate to those around you that more like calm, positive emotion state, then some of their resources can be really, really helpful. They've got tons of stuff on there, lots of really good like ebooks and things that you can download with different exercises and stuff in them. They've also got a ton of really great COVID resources as well. So feel free to check those out. And their research is excellent. None of the stuff on their site is just written just for the sake of it being there. Like, they've heavily researched everything that they put there. So you can feel confident in using their stuff. So of course, like, measuring your heart rate variability is one thing you can do if you want to start to, change how you're impacting the people around you and of course yourself. But here's some other ways that you can actually do that. So this is basically putting your body into a state of relaxation, getting the good vibes kind of flowing. And these ones are also based in science as well. Always, all my stuff is sciencey. So performing acts of kindness. So random acts of kindness are, there's actually a random acts of kindness day in February, which is really cool. But it's basically just doing something that's totally out of the blue, not expecting, this is kind of a key, not expecting anything from it, but it's something to make somebody else feel good. So this is like that, kind of like that pay it forward concept. Like if you're, at the drive-thru at Tim Hortons or whatever, it's the person behind you pays for your coffee. So the person that did that act feels good, right? So now their heart is changing and projecting differently. but also the person that received that gift is feeling good, and so they're going to spread that to another person. So you can see how this can create like a really big ripple effect. And it's not just in positive emotions, right? Those positive emotions are changing the person's heart rhythms, which then means that it's going to change their field, which is going to affect the next person that they come in contact with. So this is a really good way to start to spread the love, I guess, right? Is performing random acts of kindness. They don't have to be expensive things, they can be. But it's just doing things, even something as simple as like holding a door for somebody, right? I know it's kind of old school, but hold a door for somebody, that makes you feel good, that makes them feel good. And then they're also more likely to be able to do something for somebody else. So this is a way that we can kind of layer things on top of each other. Volunteering is another really big one. So there's tons of research in volunteering. But it basically decreases people's negative emotions. So by decreasing negative emotions, of course, we're changing that heart, changing the rhythms, and then we're able to spread that to other people. So if you're volunteering, like, in an isolated condition where you're not interacting with others, it's still changing you, which is then going to change the people that you connect with later. But if you're doing something like, the first thing that comes to my mind is like a soup kitchen, right? So if you're doing something where you actually volunteer with other people, you're going to have an even greater positive impact here, right? So if people are coming within that 3-foot zone of you, then you're going to be spreading those decreased negative emotions, or your increased positive emotion. You're going to spread that to somebody else, which hopefully will also spread it later. So volunteering is a really great way to spread spread the love. Gratitude. So practicing gratitude regularly is so important for so many reasons. But if we're going to come back to this topic of spreading love or spreading positive emotion, expressing gratitude, whether that's verbally, whether that's written, whether it's thinking about it, this actually changes the state of your heart. Okay, so it's going to change your heart rate variability, which is then, again, as usual, going to translate out beyond you. So of course, it's going to help you, but we know that it's also going to affect the people around you. So it's such a simple thing. We can, take like 2 minutes to think about 5 things we're grateful for and reflect on them, and then that's going to affect other people around us. So it doesn't have to be this huge thing that you do to change the world, or if you want to call it that. But you can just start by practicing gratitude for yourself and see what happens to those around you. The last thing here is taking time to meditate. Meditation, the research is really good on showing that it does change heart rate variability. There's different types of meditation that do this better than others. There's certain breathing exercises, and a lot of those are on HeartMath's website, but doing coherence breathing is something that's one way that you can really change that HRV for yourself. But even something like a loving kindness meditation as well. So it's not necessarily as breathing focused, but it's looking at having positive, like thinking about positive regard for yourself, but also extending that beyond yourself to other people, and sometimes even to people that you're not super keen on. But this is going to change, again, your heart rate, which is going to change your field and change everything around you. So all of these suggestions are things that you can do that aren't like super time consuming. They're completely within your control, that you can actually use to change your emotions, change your heart, and change how you affect the people around you. And this is how we can actually start spreading the love, I guess, or spreading the positivity, if you want to call it that, to the people and to the world around us. So start thinking about it. Start thinking about the effect that you actually have on other people based on your emotions. Of course, don't be hard on yourself. We all are going to have days where we have bad emotions. That's just life. There's going to be days where we're sad, where we're angry, and these are justified, and they're normal, and they're okay to have. So you know what, sometimes your heart field is not going to be great, and that's okay. We need to accept that too, but we also need to think about what we can do within our control to change these things so that we can spread our energy and our good energy around to those people that are important to us. So I hope that you take some of this stuff into consideration. Start trying maybe some of these suggestions. Check out HeartMath's website, see if you can try some of their exercises too. And they even do like training courses and things like that where you can go in and learn tons of stuff with them. So if you want to know more, check that out too. And as always, if you have questions, get in touch with me. We're going to be doing a question and answer period next week. So you can definitely send your questions in about this topic or any of the other ones we talked about this month. And I will get to them and answer them in person, which is great. Or you can connect with me on the Community Hub or on Instagram too, and we will get your questions answered. But thanks for being here today. I hope that you're feeling maybe full of love or full of positive energy and are able to go and spread that around your community and with the people that you care about, hopefully soon. So take care, and we will see you next time.